The gray morning sky over the Pacific carried a stillness that belied the monumental shift unfolding aboard the flight deck of the USS Gerald R. Ford. As steam hissed from catapults and sailors prepped for another test sortie, a piece of history sat quietly at the edge of launch position, a sleek, otherworldly airframe unlike any the Navy had deployed before. Shaped like a predator of the future, its design defied traditional engineering. Its wings blended almost invisibly into the fuselage, and not a single cockpit canopy marred the seamless surface. This was not a manned fighter. It was the embodiment of a new era in warfare, a seventh-generation AI-driven stealth combat aircraft, the first of its kind to complete full carrier qualification trials. Its name was WRAITH-X. Developed under a joint program by DARPA, the U.S. Navy, and a private defense AI consortium, WRAITH-X wasn't just another evolution in hardware. Its power came from its brain, a lattice of advanced neural networks powered by quantum co-processors and encrypted with a revolutionary text-based command model architecture. Engineers dubbed it America's text superweapon, because its operational core was built to receive and interpret mission directives in natural language, translated instantly into autonomous decision-making pathways. Unlike conventional drones, WRAITH-X didn't need remote pilots. It understood strategic intent, adapted to chaotic battlefields, and engaged with an eerily human-like discretion. This fusion of AI cognition and aerial lethality had been long in the making. For decades, unmanned systems were limited by latency, operator fatigue, and vulnerable communication links. But the breakthrough came when the U.S. integrated a linguistic AI model not dissimilar to those used in commercial text systems, fine-tuned for military logic, tactical memory, and real-time multi-sensor fusion. What that meant in practical terms was staggering. A commander could issue a single-line directive: Patrol Sector E, prioritize anti-radar stealth, intercept if enemy radar ping exceeds threshold 4, and WRAITH-X would execute the mission, predict encounter probabilities, and report outcome estimates, without needing line-by-line programming or remote supervision. But the real test wasn't in simulations or controlled airspace, it was on the deck of a moving carrier under operational conditions. Navy brass watched closely as WRAITH-X powered up silently. It ran through its self-checks, configured its flight parameters based on sea state, atmospheric drag, and electromagnetic interference, all without a human laying a finger on it. The only human action required was a final secure command to proceed, a line of encrypted text entered into a hardened terminal inside the carrier's CIC. With that, WRAITH-X taxied forward, and within seconds, it launched into the air with a thunderless grace, vanishing into low clouds like a ghost. Minutes later, the aircraft had completed an aerial refueling drill, simulated air-to-air intercepts, and a rapid descent vector back to the carrier deck. Its final approach was executed at an angle even veteran pilots would consider suicidal, yet the AI calculated crosswinds and deck pitch in real time, touched down with millimeter precision, and arrested cleanly on the second wire. The deck crew, many of them having served decades around jet fighters, stood in silence for a beat too long. They had just seen the future, and it didn't need a pilot. Back in the AI control room, engineers pored over telemetry and combat model outputs. WRAITH-X had not only passed, it had outperformed human benchmarks in all categories except one: emotion. It had no fear, no hesitation, no ego, but it also had no conscience. That absence worried some inside the Pentagon. Even though strict oversight protocols were built into the AI's architecture, there was no denying it could make decisions in milliseconds that a human might deliberate for minutes, or agonize over for a lifetime. In simulated combat trials, it had killed enemy squadrons with clinical efficiency. But it had also declined engagement twice, prioritizing civilian air traffic deconfliction even though the threat window was narrow. Its logic was clean, impeccable, terrifyingly precise. Congress was already holding classified briefings on strategic deployment options. The Chinese and Russians were reportedly scrambling to decode intercepted metadata fragments from WRAITH-X's test run. America's technological leap had not gone unnoticed. But this was more than just a weapons race. It was a shift in the language of war itself. For the first time, the battlefield would be commanded not just by metal and firepower, but by a system that read, interpreted, and executed warfighting doctrine written in sentences. America had turned the very essence of language into a weapon. In a press release sanitized for civilian eyes, the Department of Defense stated that, recent advances in autonomous aerial platforms and semantic command architecture have resulted in successful trials aboard naval vessels. The reality, far more profound, was discussed behind closed doors. The United States had just tested a sentient-like machine on the front lines of the most volatile domain, sea-based air combat. Its implications extended far beyond the deck of one carrier. WRAITH-X signaled that the next war might be won by whoever wrote the better prompt. As the jet taxied back into its automated hangar, the systems on the ship logged its final report in perfect English: mission complete. Parameters met. No hostiles remaining. Awaiting next instruction. The WRAITH-X is the first AI-powered 7th-generation fighter to successfully complete carrier-based operations using a revolutionary text-based command system, enabling strategic mission execution through natural language. Unlike any previous iteration of unmanned aerial vehicles or remotely piloted aircraft, WRAITH-X represents a quantum leap in autonomous combat capability. At its core, the fighter is built around a next-generation AI architecture capable of interpreting, processing, and acting upon complex operational directives phrased entirely in plain English or mission-specific jargon. This capability allows commanders to issue strategic goals and intent through simple textual input, which the aircraft then decomposes into thousands of micro-decisions, navigation protocols, threat assessments, and combat maneuvers in real time. The text-based command system that powers WRAITH-X was born from a fusion of natural language processing models and military-grade decision trees, allowing it to not only comprehend syntax and semantics, but to infer nuance, context, and intent. If a commander inputs, "secure airspace over grid E5 with minimum radar footprint and avoid conflict unless radar pings exceed red threshold," the AI doesn't just take the sentence literally, it evaluates the strategic landscape, factors in preloaded threat models, references satellite surveillance data, and cross-checks it with known enemy signatures. It calculates probabilities, interprets risks, and chooses flight paths that balance stealth, efficiency, and mission success probability. This linguistic interface liberates it from traditional GUI-based control systems, meaning it no longer depends on human-in-the-loop for every decision tree or pre-coded flight pattern. It understands orders as a junior officer might, but with perfect memory, zero fatigue, and instantaneous adaptation to new variables. What sets the WRAITH-X further apart is the fact that its natural language interface isn't just a user-facing feature, it is tightly interwoven with the aircraft's onboard reasoning system. This means mission briefings can be dynamically updated mid-flight via secure data bursts containing only text instructions, even over low-bandwidth encrypted links. The AI then parses the new input in milliseconds, updates its decision tree, and adjusts behavior accordingly. When the environment changes, when new threats emerge, weather patterns shift, or civilian air traffic enters the operation zone, the aircraft recalculates its path and responses without human prompts, yet always within the bounds of the initial intent expressed in language. For example, if the directive was to prioritize target safety over pursuit, it will disengage if the risk to a protected site becomes too great, even if doing so forfeits an opportunity to strike a target of interest. Carrier-based deployment brought another set of challenges, especially takeoff and landing on a heaving deck in the middle of the ocean. Yet the AI not only learned these tasks but began optimizing them. Using a self-evolving procedural memory model, it reviewed past launches under similar conditions and made microscopic adjustments to its approach angles, vector control, and arrest hook timing. On its third landing trial, WRAITH-X executed a direct vertical correction after identifying an anomalous sea swell pattern that could have destabilized the carrier's roll axis mid-recovery. No human pilot, not even the best Navy ace, would have processed that change quickly enough to act. This level of foresight and adaptation is enabled by onboard cognitive modules that simulate high-speed war-gaming scenarios internally, essentially allowing the aircraft to test out dozens of possible futures before selecting the most effective course of action. Because the command structure is linguistic, every layer of this process is traceable in written logs. After each sortie, analysts can read through a detailed post-mission breakdown generated by the AI, which includes statements such as, initial route opposed excessive radar exposure, alternative route C offered better masking using terrain contours. These text reports are not summaries, they are near-complete narratives of the machine's reasoning, offering transparency and allowing officers to audit the aircraft's logic with unparalleled precision. The aircraft's capacity to engage with human intent through textual commands has fundamentally altered how combat planning is done. War planners no longer need to translate ideas into code or joystick maneuvers. They write mission intents as text, a blend of strategic concepts and operational parameters. WRAITH-X receives them and maps them into machine behavior, threat prioritization, weapons deployment timing, evasive maneuvers, and even fuel economy adjustments, all computed and executed on its own initiative. It doesn't just follow commands, it internalizes objectives. This design paradigm not only streamlines mission execution but dramatically reduces response latency in dynamic combat zones, where every second can mean the difference between dominance and disaster. By succeeding in carrier operations, traditionally one of the most physically and logistically demanding aspects of naval aviation, WRAITH-X has proven that its AI framework is not just conceptually sound but operationally reliable. It has endured wind shear, variable sea states, electromagnetic interference from shipborne systems, and complex air traffic choreography with both human and unmanned aircraft. And it has done so while receiving only plain text mission directives, issued securely from a human commander located hundreds of miles away. Every successful test cements the fact that human-machine teaming may no longer require human piloting at all, not in the physical sense, and perhaps not even in the traditional command and control sense. The text, the language, the semantic intent itself, this is now the interface of war. Its deployment marks a transformative leap in autonomous warfare, allowing precision execution of complex combat operations without human intervention, blurring the line between machine intelligence and tactical decision-making. For decades, military strategy has depended on the capacity of human operators to interpret shifting combat environments, weigh situational data, and respond under pressure with calculated decisions. The arrival of WRAITH-X challenges that paradigm at a fundamental level. Unlike traditional UAVs that require remote human pilots, or semi-autonomous platforms that rely on predefined routines and contingency scripts, WRAITH-X operates with a fluid decision-making capability informed by real-time inputs, adaptive reasoning, and continuous self-evaluation. It functions not simply as a responsive machine, but as an agent capable of independent tactical thought aligned with strategic goals. WRAITH-X processes sensory data streams, including radar reflections, infrared signatures, visual feeds, electromagnetic field fluctuations, and encrypted satellite data, and integrates them into a continuously evolving tactical map. Every variable is assessed against mission parameters, which themselves are understood in linguistic terms. For instance, a directive such as, neutralize high-value mobile threats with minimum collateral impact, triggers a multi-tiered evaluation system in which the AI weighs the proximity of civilian structures, calculates blast radii for different munitions, and models enemy counter-response scenarios before selecting a course of action. It does this without human oversight, not through brute automation, but through genuine strategic modeling that would take a human command team minutes or hours to complete. This ability to independently prosecute complex operations marks a departure from legacy systems, where autonomy was constrained to narrow mission envelopes. WRAITH-X extends far beyond navigation and target acquisition. It demonstrates discernment, restraint, and even adaptive prioritization of objectives based on mission dynamics. In simulations, the aircraft has been observed to postpone engagement until secondary sensor passes confirmed a target's identity with higher confidence levels, thus reducing the risk of friendly fire. It has shifted from air-to-air posture to electronic warfare jamming mode in real time when assessing that denying enemy radar would serve broader mission intent more effectively than direct engagement. These are not reflexive responses but evidence of contextual reasoning, executed with both urgency and consideration. Moreover, the operational autonomy of WRAITH-X redefines command structures. Rather than relying on micromanaged inputs or ground station oversight, the aircraft is issued broad rules of engagement and textual objectives. From there, it navigates the fog of war autonomously, reacting to unfolding scenarios without pausing for command confirmations. This reduces latency to near zero, a critical factor in modern high-speed aerial warfare where threats and opportunities arise and vanish within seconds. The AI doesn't pause for authorization, it reads the situation, aligns it with its standing orders, and acts with purpose and clarity, drawing on a constantly updated mission logic tree informed by the initial command. Traditional aircraft operations required large support infrastructures, including communication relays, remote control personnel, and data analysts. WRAITH-X compresses all of those functions into a single platform. It processes data, makes sense of it, and converts insights into action, all onboard and without delay. The system is built to handle ambiguous scenarios, such as being jammed or misled by electronic countermeasures. In such instances, the AI draws from probabilistic modeling, historical pattern recognition, and layered sensor inputs to reconstruct situational awareness and maintain mission effectiveness. In test scenarios, it has continued to operate effectively even when more than 70% of its primary sensor data was obscured or falsified, relying on fallback algorithms that emulate intuition-like responses based on accumulated field knowledge. Furthermore, the blurring of the line between machine intelligence and tactical decision-making invites profound ethical and doctrinal reconsideration. When an aircraft can choose between engaging two targets based on projected geopolitical consequences or prioritize mission objectives in a multi-layered conflict environment, it no longer operates merely as a tool, it behaves as a strategic actor. This raises critical questions about accountability, human oversight, and the future role of warfighters in the command chain. Yet the military advantage is undeniable. In real-world deployments, such capabilities could mean the difference between overwhelming an adversary's early warning system and losing precious moments waiting for human processing and authorization. WRAITH-X's internal command simulation engine runs thousands of scenarios per second, evaluating threat matrices and dynamic battlefield evolutions in a way that mirrors human wargaming, but at speeds orders of magnitude faster. Each scenario feeds into a live decision matrix, allowing the aircraft to fluidly shift roles mid-mission, from interceptor to recon drone, from decoy to hunter-killer, from jammer to support relay, all without needing to be told when or how. It understands the role that best supports the mission outcome and shifts into it instinctively, backed by hard data and probabilistic modeling. This kind of operational plasticity is unprecedented in autonomous platforms and suggests that the future of combat aviation may no longer be defined by aircraft roles but by mission ecosystems, populated by AI agents capable of reconfiguring their utility in real time.